Thank you for coming in, Mr. Smith. We got the results from your lab test, and I now know how to help you with your joint pain.
That's great. My big toe has still been really inflamed, and I keep having flares where I wake up in the night because it hurts so much.
Your blood test and joint fluid test show that you have gout, a type of inflammatory arthritis.
What is gout exactly?
Gout is caused by the accumulation of crystals of a waste product called monosodium urate, or MSU, in the fluid of your joint. We identified these crystals in your joint fluid sample and observed high urate levels in your blood. You mentioned you take diuretics for hypertension, which may have put you at a higher risk because diuretics reduce how much urate your kidneys get rid of. MSU crystals usually deposit on cartilage and the joint lining for a long time without causing symptoms, but cold temperatures or stress trigger them to shed into the joint fluid, becoming exposed to immune cells, which see them as foreign. This sets off an inflammatory cascade that explains your symptoms. The first immune cells to respond are macrophages, which engulf these crystals in a process called phagocytosis. They assemble what's called an NRPL3 inflammasome, which leads to the release of a signaling molecule, interleukin-1 beta. Interleukin-1 beta is secreted to recruit neutrophils. Once neutrophils arrive, they release reactive oxygen species, enzymes, and other inflammatory molecules in an attempt to clear out the invaders. The problem is, these molecules aren't invader-specific and end up damaging your joint tissue as well. This neutrophil storm is why gout flares are so painful. Neutrophils also release webs of DNA and proteins in a process called netosis, in an attempt to trap the crystals. At first, these nets amplify the inflammation, but they eventually mop up the inflammatory signals, explaining why gout flares often resolve themselves.
Even if they resolve themselves, is there anything you can do to help me?
I'm going to prescribe you a drug called Colchicine to treat your flares.
How does the drug work? I'd like to know before I decide to take it.
Essentially, it works by calming down your immune system. As I said, your immune cells see the MSU crystals in your toe as foreign invaders, and it is their attempt to destroy the crystals that causes the painful inflammation. Colchicine interferes with immune cells' ability to muster and attack.
How does it do that?
Fundamentally, it disrupts the formation of cellular structures called microtubules, which are long, rigid tubes that are constantly assembled and disassembled in the cytoplasm as part of many cellular processes. For example, microtubules are involved in intracellular transportation, extracellular signaling, movement, adhesion, and cell division. Microtubules are built from two subunits called alpha and beta tubulin. What colchicine does is bind to these subunits in a way that prevents them from polymerizing into a microtubule. This means that when colchicine accumulates in immune cells, it disrupts the wide range of cellular activities that depend on microtubule formation. For instance, it prevents the inflammasome assembly, reduces neutrophil recruitment, and suppresses the release of harmful molecules. All of these changes dampen the immune response to MSU crystals, reducing the inflammation in your affected joint.
That sounds very powerful. Is this a newly developed drug?
No, it's actually a chemical that is found in many plants, most notably Colchicum autumnale, which you might also know as meadow saffron. The first record of its use can be dated back to ancient Egypt in 1550 BC, where clinical records suggest that it was used as a treatment against pain and swelling. In the 18th century, a former French artillery officer named Nicolas Husson commercialized a substance he entitled Oil Medicinal d'Husson, a secret remedy that accidentally happened to be a treatment for gout and other inflammatory pains. Among those that first used a derivative of this remedy was U.S. founding father Benjamin Franklin, who became an enthusiastic advocate for colchicine in American medical practices. The actual compound colchicine wasn't isolated until 1820 by two French chemists, with the active form purified 13 years later by a German pharmacist. Finally, the unisolated crystallized form was produced by Alfred Hout in 1884. However, despite the drug's long history and various clinical trials, colchicine was only approved by the FDA in 2009.
So does that mean it's safe?
Yes, colchicine is well researched. There have been many clinical trials, especially since it's been used to treat many diseases. Clinical trial most relevant to your case is the AGREE trial, which compared low and high dose colchicine. It was the first ever randomized and placebo-controlled trial, and they found that both doses performed better than the placebo.
Okay, that's somewhat reassuring, but are there any side effects?
Yes. The AGREE trial showed that while both doses improved symptoms, higher doses were associated with more side effects such as vomiting and diarrhea.
It would be great if researchers could get rid of these side effects.
Agreed, and there are other improvements I'd like to see as well. For example, it would be great if we could increase the therapeutic index to make it safer to take. I must be very careful with the dosage for this drug, because the microtubule formation process it disrupts is very important for all types of cells. Ideally, we would want to target the immune cells at your affected joint specifically, whereas today it affects immune cells everywhere in your body, as well as other cells that we don't actually want to target at all. That said, it is safe to take it as prescribed.
Thanks, Doc. That was very informative. and it seems like you know what you're doing.
Of course, it's always important to be well informed.